Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Six Rings Kane Show on a new night, Monday night now, baby. We're really excited, actually, to have Eric McLean on the show here, college football analyst, co-host of The Huddle. Coach, yes! All right!
First touchdown of the year.
Miami Hurricanes, yeah. You know the name already. It's Mercy. Ha ha. It's a six-ring Kane show. Can't forget the name though. Got Jazz, Blue, Vision, DJ, break the game code. Ain't no changing them, ain't no breaking them. We'll put live from the Wright Stadium. Ball 14 for the orange and green. We see the six-ring champs. It's more than a dream. This is life on the field. Beyond 100 yards of hurricane that's never still put a damage to your squad.
What's wrong with us? Seriously.
What's wrong with us? We're Miami Hurricanes fans.
Welcome to the Six Rings Kane Show, a show dedicated to Miami Hurricane sports, featuring the legendary Larry Bluestein, Jazz Santana, Vish, and Danny Gillette. Let's go Canes.
What's up, everyone? How you doing? Six Rings Kane Show here on a Monday. DJ, how's it going?
Good. There's only two of us on that list that Alana nicely read off in the intro, but that's okay.
Yeah, we've lost more people than the Canes coaching staff, which we'll get to in a minute. First, just to keep everyone in the loop, Jazz is out sick. Blue is trying to connect. He's having some computer issues we're trying to work through. He should hopefully be joining us in a minute, but I guess it's probably good. We'll start with a little Prize Picks here, who is our sponsor. Let me I've got to do the producing and the reading here. Where's my banner? There it goes. All right. Prize Picks, prizepicks.com. Very simple how you play. Pick 2 to 5 players. You basically bet their over-under on points or yardage, depending on what sport it is. I believe there's hockey in there as well, maybe some goals in there. And it's that simple. Bet 2 to 5 of them. You pick over-under. You get them all right. You get paid. Obviously, the more you bet, the more you win. And through Prize Picks and 5 Reasons Sports, we will match your initial deposit up to $100 if you enter the offer code 5, which you can see scrolling across the bottom of the screen. That is offer code 5, the word 5, F-I-V-E. Go to prizepicks.com, create an account, use the offer code 5 at checkout. We'll match up to $100 and get some free money in there and win some money as well with prizepicks.com and 5 Reasons Sports. All right, as we await to see if Blue can get through his technical difficulties and as Jazz has gone completely AWOL. Yes, let's go, DJ. All right, so let's just recap what a crazy week it's been on campus. So since we spoke last Monday, Tim Harris Jr. has become the running backs coach. Wright has quit to go to the NFL. The entire athletics program was put on probation on Friday. The women's basketball team has been hit with some minor recruiting violations. The men's basketball team blew a 25-point lead to Florida State and lost at the buzzer. Baseball won 5 games. This is all in the last week. And the women closed out the weekend with a win and finished 6th in the ACC, which is the best basketball conference. Coming up this week, the men's basketball will be playing Pitt at home Saturday night. Winner wins the ACC. So if the men beat Pitt, they win the ACC anyway, despite last weekend's let's just say not the best performance. Let's put it that way, especially in that second half there. The women open tournament play Thursday at 8 p.m. They got a bye because they finished high enough up the seed. And the men's baseball, and so men's, it's baseball. It's only men's. We don't have a softball team. The baseball team is in Gainesville this weekend playing UF. So other than that, nothing much going on around these programs. But let's start with football. So there's a couple of kind of big items that we haven't addressed yet, and one is Tim Harris Jr. coming in at the running backs coach position. So, my man DJ, what are your thoughts on Tim Harris Jr.?
I really like him because he's served multiple roles during his coaching career. He was the assistant coach in addition to the offensive coordinator and running backs coach at FIU. And he strikes me as a guy that can make the most out of his running backs. Just looking at his FIU resume, for example, they broke the school's single season record for rushing touchdowns in 2018 and rush yards per carry. And, he strikes me as a guy that isn't necessarily one that needs to, build this room from the ground up. He just needs to maximize the talent in the room. We obviously have some very talented running backs, and I really like the resume that he brings to the table, as well as the caliber of running backs that we have. I think it's a really good fit.
Yeah, we actually talked about that last week as well, and with Blue and Jazz here as well, in terms of you can't just plug someone into that role because of the talent and the egos and the pedigree of the players in the running back room. These are all top level recruits. They're not just going to go. People are saying, well, just grab Houston's running backs coach because you'll know the offensive coordinator. Like, that doesn't work. You need someone that the players respect, and Tim Harris Jr. is definitely that. He's got a lot of local ties. He's well known. His father's obviously got a great reputation as well locally. All of that's going to help. Now, we still have that issue of how we're going to get carries for all these running backs, but having someone in the room that's universally respected in South Florida, I think that is going to be very helpful. It'll help in recruiting as well. So really it's a good hire. He came from UCF, like you said. He was getting some assistant head coaching experience there as well, kind of growing his pedigree. It is a step up for him. And oh yeah, let's not talk about basketball right now. It's too soon, man. Too soon. But this is an opportunity for him. And I will say, as we try to get Blue connected, hopefully be able to speak for himself. So I do know that there was some concern last week that Blue stressed. So we should probably talk through that a little bit on his behalf, as his computer is not functioning right now, but he did raise some concerns about this being a pretty big step up for Tim Harris Jr. So he still holds that concern, but it was really more because I definitely got it in my Twitter feed. I think Jazz did as well, in terms of, hey, I thought Blue hated this hire. He doesn't hate the hire. He's in favor. He likes the hire. He and Tim Harris Jr. are actually quite close. Like, he is on board with this hire. I think his question was, if you have someone, and I know we were talking about Cedar last week, with that level of experience, that if you can get someone with that much experience, he'd rather do that than have this be a step up for someone. It is a step up for Tim Harris Jr., but I think we're pretty universal in thinking that this is an earned step up. We'll talk a little hoops here. I do a special hit on Wednesdays now where I talk through hoops because I don't have time on this show, but maybe I will today since Blue and Jazz bailed. We can talk a little hoops too. But yeah, so I think this is a step up for him, but I think it's a logical step up, Danny.
Yeah, and I think, the UCF rushing attack averaged a little over 228 yards per game last year. So it's not like he has a shoddy resume by any stretch of the imagination. This is something, in my opinion, that he can handle. And like I just mentioned a little bit earlier, his running back rooms have shown improvement, both incremental and drastic. So I think, the combination of a full running back room and, the skill set that he brings to the table in terms of being able to maximize the running game, I think it's a good fit and will mesh well together, especially since the running game was inconsistent at times last year.
Inconsistent, boy. You're on Euphemism Monday here. It was terrible, as was the passing game.
I'm trying to be nice, but because you don't really want to get me going, or else we'll be here for the next 5 hours.
Well, I mean, you do have that Nebraska pedigree, and you take your run game seriously. So
we do.
That was not up to standard last year. Yeah. So switching gears, though, another kind of surprise over the weekend, actually, as the basketball team was imploding on Saturday afternoon. Word leaked that Wright is going to the NFL. So I know, we kind of hinted, and there's been rumors flying around that there might be some other exits. Like, even like Charlie Strong's not even official yet. He's still on the team website, but I think we know he's gone. Wright was not really one of the ones that was expected. Again, he got an NFL job, so he took it. So that leaves another hole. And I know, the people's champion to replace him right now is Jason Taylor. Danny, you have thoughts on potentially Jason Taylor stepping up to the defensive ends coach? And also, just as a follow-up to that, we still, if you remember when Nicholson was hired, he's inside linebackers. Should there be two coaches? Should there be an outside linebackers and defensive ends coach, or should that be the same person?
Well, I think if you have Jason Taylor on the staff, one of the best, defensive ends in the history of the NFL, I think you can kind of, have to take a hard look at making a specialized defensive ends coach and a linebackers coach. I mean, getting taught by Jason Taylor, that would mean something to quite a few kids in the area. And, just to be able to bring him out, and I know they've already done this, but with an official title as defensive end coach on the recruiting trail, I mean, you would have to be stupid if you were a young defensive end to say no to Jason Taylor. So to me, it seems like a logical move, but you never know. I mean, this whole offseason has been about surprising staff hires and not quick staff hires. So, I have to wonder if that'll be the move, but it makes sense to me.
Yeah, and just to recap, where we currently, I know it's hard to keep up as we go through this for everyone. We currently lack a defensive ends coach, an outside linebackers coach, and a wide receivers coach. I agree. So this is a good comment. Yeah, definitely is the quickest hire, is the easiest hire. I'd be surprised. And I'd be, to DJ's point and also yours. That's a mouthful. Kane's gonna give it to you. We might need to acronym that CGGITY. I don't know how that plays. It's a really good point. I think probably the question is, what are his responsibilities? I think it'd be pretty surprising if he's not on the field. I just assumed he would take that when we named Nicholson the inside linebackers, that Jason Taylor was going to take the outside linebackers.
I mean,
but now we got the defensive ends open as well, and we still need a wide receivers coach. So there's kind of a lot of moving parts still in play here. And then, people still want to get DVD on the field in some capacity too. So, and we can only add two coaches. That's it. Unless because we're capped there. So.
I mean, to me, just based off of last year, and yes, I know we had injuries and things like that, but not having a wide receivers coach right now, I think we need to get that addressed pretty soon, if not, within the next couple of days. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, Mario has shown this offseason that he is taking his time and is making due diligence. Whether or not that's going to be a good thing, and we're having these conversations again next January and February, remains to be seen. But at the very least, he is. I'm not saying he's picking the guys that he wants, but he is making hires at this stage of the game, and hopefully these positions will be filled soon.
Yeah, and with this one, it's hard to say whether or not, was Wright, because there's some of these coaches that go looking because they know they're not wanted. Like, I know that was one of the hold-ups with getting Gaddis out of here. He was never coming back, essentially, after that performance, but they gave him time to kind of try to find something else before we formally fire you. So I don't know if Wright was a planned exit, like we knew he was going. We were just because he moved to the NFL, so most coaches would take that versus being a college defensive ends coach. So I don't know if this opens up another kind of hole to fill. To IMAX's point here, I think this is probably where we're headed with this, because we only have two coaching positions available that we can fill on field right now. This is assuming Strong is actually leaving, all that stuff, and one has got to go to the receiver side. So it would make sense for Jason Taylor to do defensive end and outside linebacker. I think that's probably where this is heading. Still think it's a little weird that Nicholson was named. My assumption is the plan was Jason Taylor would be outside linebackers coach, and Wright was going to stay as defensive ends. But then the problem with that is doesn't leave us any coaches to fill in the receiver coach. So I don't know. There's also been rumors maybe Feld won't be on the field anymore, and you could certainly combine, especially in Shannon Dawson's offense. Tight end and wide receivers coach could probably be combined. under one coach as well. So I think there's still more moving parts, but certainly we got to economize some of this. There's not enough staff available left to have an independent tight end coach, wide receiver coach, defensive end, and linebackers. So outside linebackers. So something's got to combine here.
And I'm just saying in general, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but we have to economize some of this, and we have to make sure that, we can at least get a couple years out of this particular group. Because if you go into next season having to do this roller coaster coaching carousel again, I mean, but let's hope that doesn't happen, and let's think positively. I'm just thinking in general.
Yeah, and I think the thing is there's two ways that that can happen, right? One's from a possession of strength, which Wright might actually be. Kevin Steele certainly was, went picked by Alabama to be their defensive coordinator. So sometimes coaches leave because, hey, there's a better opportunity there. And if that happens, great. That generally, although that wasn't the case this year, but generally means you had a good season. I think the issue here is, all right, half these guys got to go because we're terrible. And then you start having these leakages, and the next thing you know, like almost the entire staff is getting turned over now. So it does put you in a position where, I mean, who's left? It's Feld. It is, oh my God, I should have pulled it up before I started doing this from memory, man. Salavea is still there.
Salavea, yep.
Adai is still here.
DVD?
Well, DVD is not on the field.
Yeah, true, yeah.
So it's
good point.
I'm missing. Who am I missing? Oh, Mirabal.
Hello.
Yeah, but I think that's it, right? Am I missing someone that's still here?
No, I think you've got it all. And like I said last week, and I understand coaches leave for better opportunities and things like that, but if you want to bring consistency and stability back into a program, you got to have a consistent coaching staff. Hopefully this year was a anomaly, and this won't happen again, but you never know. And, like you kind of alluded to, many of these coaches didn't go on to bigger things. Hopefully next year we're at the point where maybe coaches can find better jobs somewhere else after a good season and not a complete train wreck that was last year.
Yeah, and I think that's where the difference is, and that's why the turnover is so high. Because there were people like Gaddis that had to go, and they were fired. And there's other people that found opportunities to get into. Like Ponce kind of had to go too. He was just able to find a landing spot. Like I don't think he was going to be asked back either. But then you have those ones, and you have someone like Steele leaves for a better job. Wright going to the NFL. That's where you get into these major numbers. So, if a few coaches leave after next year because the team performs well, they get a higher profile, they get better opportunities. That's healthy for a program. That happens to Alabama every year. If we have that as well as having to fire half the coaches because we're not doing well, that's where it becomes problematic. That happened this year, and like you said, DJ, cannot have that happen again.
Yeah, I would rather have coaches leave because they go on to better places than because of dysfunction, quite frankly. And I'm hoping that this year will bring some stability, and obviously it all starts on the field with some wins, and that's easier said than done. But I'm not sounding the alarm bells on Mario, but for many reasons I think this is a very crucial season for the program.
Yeah, and just to address this, I think it'll be collaborative. I don't think though that Shannon Dawson at this point has autonomy to hire whoever he wants. I think.
Yeah, I don't think many have autonomy in a Mario staff to.
Well, I don't think many have autonomy in most staffs. The head coach, if you think about this, right, and I know it's, if the head coach is running the program, you only have, I believe it's 10 total coaches you're allowed on the field. He's going to be hiring almost all of them. It's very rare that a coordinator picks his assistants, period. So, I mean, if you look at like all these other big programs, like even let's just take a look at our ACC competition. Clemson fires the offensive coordinator. They hire TCU's. He's picking up their existing coaches there. They're not letting him like fire them and pick his own staff. that was a guy they went and got, right? And same thing, Gaddis last year didn't pick a staff. Like I would say, to DJ's point, I think the point you're making, I think it is rare that they have as little say as it appeared our coaches had last year in terms of like, if you're the coordinator, at least have some input, like, hey, this is the type of coach I would work well with. That guy can't work with. It doesn't look like any of that happened, which is, I would say, odd that there's zero input. But the head coach does the hiring. Like, I mean, that's part of their job. And ultimately that is, as the person responsible for the product on the field at the top of it, it does make sense for them to do that. I know, now, if you get like, does it make sense for them to hire like all the trainers? No, but the coaches that are on the field, that is high profile enough that the head coach will be working directly enough with that I feel like that has to be his consideration as well. Like, I don't see how he's not involved, if not just making those decisions.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I would venture to say that maybe the assistants have a little bit more say in terms of analysts, not on-field coaches, but you never know. But I mean, still, I think how this coaching staff looks is maybe not the way that we thought it was going to look, but I do see promise here with this particular group.
Yeah, and shout out to Flo, the man himself.
Flo, how you doing?
For gracing us. Hey, well, it's good to know someone shows up to the show anymore. Our co-hosts don't, but good to know you did. Leave us
a Yelp review, Flo. Tell us how we did.
Yeah. Leave us a Yelp review, and also, next time you play Jazz on the golf course, kick his butt for blowing the show off tonight. Actually, Jazz is pretty sick. We
I was going to say, it takes Jazz a lot to miss a show.
Yeah, actually, a little aside, and then we'll get back to that. So I was actually in Miami this weekend, and all of that sporting event action there. So Jazz was supposed to go with me. We went together to the baseball game Friday night. He got really sick on Saturday, missed the rest of the weekend, essentially. He lucked into missing that basketball game, but also missed the baseball Saturday night, went to the women's basketball game on Sunday, missed that as well, and he's still under the weather a little bit.
What was the thing that you guys, you said there was this concession thing at the baseball game where if you ate a lot, your stomach would get sick?
I did do the milkshake, and I kept it down. That was I was not going to do the milkshake, and then, after the basketball game, as I walked over to the stadium, I had two choices. One was imbibe some, let's just say, adult beverages. Titanic is, of course, across the street from Mark Lake Field, but I was going into the press box, didn't seem like a smart idea. so instead I went with the depression milkshake off of that. I kept it down this time, which is probably even a worse thing, because next time I go there, there'll be nothing to stop me.
You'll get the false confidence, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't need to be eating that stuff anyway. But anyway, yeah, it was still a good time. Still a good time down in Miami. Shout out to Katie Meyer, who I'm friendly with, so I was able to. So I talked to her on Sunday, and also she was kind enough to invite my niece to her office before the game. Took pictures with her. My niece choked. She was all excited all weekend, and then we go in there and she froze up, but she'll get better. She's only 4. Anyway, shout out to the whole women's basketball team. It's a good performance on Sunday, and yeah, for hosting us.
That's good stuff right there. That's really good stuff, and it's a very busy time and a good time mostly to be a Miami sports fan, but.
Yeah, barring the second half last weekend. But yeah, anyway, I guess that's a good transition.
Segue,
We should probably talk about the fact that the whole athletics program is on probation now. Do you have thoughts on this, DJ?
I mean, so I was trying to read about it and kind of grasp it, and it didn't make any sense to me. So I'll just have you explain it for me, just so I have everything clear. Why are they on probation? Is it because I saw something about a dinner of some sort?
Okay, so that's the misreporting. All right, so I'm gonna do two things here, and I have a whole video I did on this Saturday on this feed if people want to check out longer points, so then I spend 30 minutes talking about it now. But the highlights that is how people misreported it. So I'll tell you what the official story is and what's actually happened here. So the official reason that they were penalized is it was actually women's basketball that did it, and it was around the Cavender twins. But what the official penalty was Johnny Ruiz reached out to the Cavender twins to work on an NIL deal. This is after they'd already decided to come to Miami. So the whole thing about them using NIL as an inducement to go to a school is already off the table because this all happened after they wanted to come to Miami. So they actually did not take the meeting because I'm sure they get a lot. They're obviously independently famous. They get a lot of requests. And so Johnny Ruiz reached out to Katie Meyer and said, "Hey, it's a legitimate business. We're looking for advertising and to self promotion. That's what advertising is for. And we think it's a good fit with the Cavender twins." So Katie Meyer had one of the assistant coaches reach out to them and say, "Yes, this person's on the up and up. It's a legitimate business opportunity." I don't want to alarm people in the chat, DJU, but apparently there's a lot of scams in Miami. So I know that's breaking news for everyone here. So she basically said, "No, this is actually a legitimate business," because in Miami often that's not the case. And that was it. That was the extent of the violation. That she connected them with an NIL opportunity. Now, keeping in mind,
doesn't sound like much of a violation to me.
It's not, and it wasn't. So this is where it gets even shadier. So in May, the NCAA issued clarifications explicitly making this allowable. So this is no longer a penalty. At the time she did it was before the clarification. It was also not against the rules explicitly. And that the whole thing is crap when you're reading through the report and the phrase where they talk about what she did wrong starts with, "Although Coach Meyer did not know and there was no rule in place." And then it is insane. But that was what the penalty was for. Now, she did take a suspension to start the year. She missed the first 3 games of the basketball season. So that was already done.
Right.
So what came out on Friday was just a closure of it. Basically, look, it's already done. There's a minor recruiting violation, like a restriction on the women's basketball. I think it was 1% of their recruiting budget. they lost. So not really anything impactful there. And then the whole school is on probation for a year. Now, probation is simply same way you use it in the legal sense, like in court or whatever. You're on probation. That means if you slip up, you go straight to jail. So essentially, if they slip up, the penalties, depending on the slip up, would be harsher than they otherwise wouldn't have been. That's what the probation is. So there's no real impact immediately.
Right. Okay. So because I was reading, a bunch of things, and even I was thinking, okay, this doesn't seem like much. So I guess my response to this and what I think of it is the NCAA continues to focus their energy in the wrong place, and they open up something like NIL, or they give NIL opportunities, right? And, the schools try to do as best they can and do things as, clean as they can, and the NCAA still finds something wrong with it. I mean, this is peak NCAA. This really is peak NCAA.
Yeah, but so in this case, Miami self-imposed the penalty to close the investigation out. So Coach Meyer just took the 3-game suspension. Could have fought it for sure. Just did it at the beginning of the season, and then everything else after that is basically nothing. But when the university announced, "Hey, we took these penalties and this investigation is closed," they explicitly said, "NCAA, you got to get your stuff together. This is not like you need to clarify your rules. This is not work." And also, they even said like the penalties we took were not commiserate with what their findings were. Basically, like they took an excessive penalty to make it go away. And the reason you do that is, one, NCAA is lawless. They can do whatever they want, right? You don't want them poking around your athletic department. You also, the last thing you need is them, despite what happened last Saturday, Miami's men's basketball team is a legitimate Final Four contender. The last thing you want them doing is coming through and, suspending half the team in the middle of the ACC tournament or something. Yeah. So, and even if you take them to court and try to fight it, by the time it works its way through, you're screwed. You've ruined the season, right? So by taking the suspension, that's why she takes the suspension on the first 3 games of the season. Had they found something, or had the NCAA come in like now and tried to suspend her, like the women's team is also a tournament team. you don't want the coach suspended in the ACC tournaments this week. So you take that at the front of this season when the games are less impactful. So that's why they did it. But there was no crime here at all. And what actually, this is more opinion, but this is what actually happened too, is so they have NIL in place, and John Ruiz has upset a lot of people with how brazen he is about flaunting the NIL opportunities he creates, announcing, I have signed this person to this much money. And now, keep in mind, as uncomfortable as that might make, bow tie wearing NCAA executives who are used to everything being for free because of the sanctity of the sport, while looking the other way while Alabama buys the entire team a Dodge Charger, like, they're okay with that. They're not okay with the brazen out in the open, and they're definitely not okay with it being Miami doing it. So they basically went into this trying to figure out a way to get Johnny Ruiz. And that they spent 4 months on this investigation trying to get him. Now, the problem they have is the stuff that is annoying people is explicitly allowed. That is the point. These are marketing deals. Name, image, and likeness is for marketing. So if they're if he's out there bragging about it, it's to promote his brand. That's the point. Now, if you tell me how an NIL collective that some of these other schools are running is actually doing name, image, and likeness, I'd like to know that. Where's the angle on that? What is the benefit from that? But it's all over my Twitter. It's all over TV in South Florida too. Like, that life wallet crap is everywhere. And you're seeing these players in the commercials. Like, he has used the hell out of that NIL for the explicitly allowable purpose. And they kind of gave the game away a little bit in terms of what they were trying to do when these penalties came out. And, of course, unnamed sources are complaining, oh, they really need to make him disassociate from the school, because there's essentially for lack of a better word, like a no-fly list for boosters, which if they're on there, you cannot contact them. So the whole goal was to try and prove Ruiz did something wrong to get him on there so he couldn't participate in NIL, which means that essentially Miami's out of the NIL game, which was the goal here. But they couldn't find anything on him because it's clear. He's clean. All that bragging that's very annoying to some people actually is what makes it obviously clean. So it was a witch hunt. It ended up with nothing other than the women's basketball coach getting suspended at the beginning of the season. And that is another in a long line of NCAA witch hunts against Miami that ended up nowhere. They did it on the Adidas shoe scandal. They did it on the Nevin Shapiro scandal, and they've done it again here. And it's a pattern of behavior from them. And if the shoe was on the other foot and Miami was prosecuting this case against the NCAA, they would accuse them of repeat violator status for repeatedly trying to go after them without any evidence. And they did it again here. So this shouldn't have any kind of long-term impact, but it just goes to show, there's one set of rules for Miami and one for the rest of college sports.
They pick and choose their favorites, and, they look the other way for some schools and focus on other schools, and it's really quite a shame. But, the NCAA has never been one of modesty and fair play. So then again, are you really surprised?
No, and that's actually why you have to accept. That's why you accept the harsher than should have been penalties to get the thing closed, because they don't play fair, because they don't have any rules that they abide by. They could very well just start suspending basketball players right now, right? And then what's your recourse? Yes, you can go to court. Yes, you can fight it there, and you can win there. There have been cases where you do that. In fact, you probably would win there because they don't have a leg to stand on. You're still impacted if like half the team doesn't play against Pitt this weekend, when if you win the ACC, right? So you have to just get it behind you at this point. And that's what they did.
Yeah, I would assume that by the time everything's done in court, the impacts of the suspension in terms of athletic competition will be far greater than the court ruling for that particular case. But yeah, it's just annoying. It really is annoying. And the NCAA is, picks and chooses what they want to do, and it's just, not right.
Yeah, but again, fortunately, and I guess one of the things we should say is we are lucky that Dan Radakovich and what's up, Pinto, and kind of the athletic department is clean, because they went in there fishing looking for something. And all they got was exactly what I described earlier, that an assist, Katie Meyer directed an assistant coach to let the Cavender twins know that John Ruiz was not a crook. That's what they came up with after 4 months of going through the entire athletic program. That's pretty much a badge of honor there that things are running pretty well there, because certainly if they had found something, they would have penalized that versus the kind of the lame stuff they ended up going after us for.
Radakovich also knows how to run a very solid athletic department, so you have that in your favor. Meanwhile, up in my neck of the woods, BC has old friend Blake James. So
yes,
that's
he
interesting.
does. Yes, he is up there. And yeah, I haven't been watching BC that closely to see.
They're awful in pretty much everything except for hockey. So, I mean, they've been awful for forever. So it's not just a Blake James thing.
I was about to say, in his defense, he hasn't really had a chance to turn that stuff around yet. But yeah.
Anyway,
I don't expect the Boston College revival anytime soon.
No. That's why I'm rooting for other teams besides Boston College.
Well, I mean, you're obviously rooting for Miami, right, man? You're on the Six Ring Kane show. In the same conference.
Oh yeah, with no help from the ACC network. But anyway,
actually, I think the Pitt game is on the ACC network because
football. I'm a football guy.
Well. I mean, look.
Although if we start winning and more games are on national TV, then I
look, man. We are playing for an ACC championship on Saturday. That is if you watch the football team lately, that's as close as we're going to get to an ACC championship game. So embrace it, man. Embrace it.
However, it could happen this year in football. You never know. I'm not going to make any bold record predictions because I did that last year and it came back to bite me. But
yeah, I think at this point we've established we should all be out of the prediction game.
I'll just hope that everybody has a good season, nobody gets hurt, and everybody has fun. How about that?
I mean, if we play like we did last year, no one's having fun. All right, so kind of let's to close out this football topic a little bit. So we've talked. What do you think is and kind of shifting the offense side of the ball? What do you think is happening at wide receivers coach? Because I think on the defensive side, Rod Wright went, and we're unclear whether or not that was expected or whether he just got an NFL opportunity. But I think everyone would be pretty surprised unless he just flatly doesn't want to do it if Jason Taylor's not in there in some capacity. What do you think is happening? Because in the past we've gone through who are your wide receiver coach candidates, who would you look at, that kind of stuff. But you can certainly offer that up. But also, what do you think is going on there? Why do we not have a wide receivers coach?
To answer the second part of your question, I don't know. This doesn't make any sense to me because of the struggles that we had at the wide receiver position and the fact that we were playing so many young guys. You need to have a coach that can help them continue to develop. Colby Young was a guy that I thought came on really strong last season, and I'd love to see him kind of take another step forward to continue on that great play. But I mean, looking at wide receiver coach candidates, I mean, you guys brought up Leonard Hankerson last week, and I thought that would be a very good option just in terms of, the wide receivers he works with right now are Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. So he certainly knows how to work with top-tier receivers and in terms of development. And I understand that, people don't want Miami guys, or some people don't want Miami guys on the staff because we need to branch out and whatever. But I think he would be a very solid option just in terms of, who he's worked with, his pedigree, and also kind of the understanding of the culture of Miami.
So in terms of, I guess I'll speak to the not wanting Miami guys. I don't necessarily care in that sense. I don't want people that we wouldn't otherwise hire. Right. If they happen to also be a Miami guy, great. If they're qualified and they're a Miami guy, that's awesome.
Some people are just completely no Miami guys whatsoever.
I just don't want someone that okay, take the Miami out of their resume. Would we still hire them? If the answer is no, we should not be hiring them.
Would you still hire Hankerson if there wasn't Miami on his resume?
I think so. I'm not sure how much. The thing with, especially in the NFL, it's hard to know who's doing what there. They have, unlike in college, they don't have restrictions on coaches. So they have 47 coaches to do everything. There's usually not, there's not necessarily one guy doing this or that. So it is hard to know what exactly his responsibilities are. Obviously, the 49ers have done a really good job over the last few years. So he's part of a successful program there. And obviously Mike McDaniel's down in Miami now as the head coach, came out of there. So I think he's worked under good coaches there, and Kyle Shanahan's a great offensive mind. So these are good people to be around. So overall, I'd be fine with it. But I honestly don't know enough about what he does. It's so hard to know what coaches in the NFL do.
Right. And, I was just looking at in terms of, that he's working with Ayuk and Samuel, and, he has the experience of helping those guys reach the next level. And not the next level, but, to get to the all-pro accolades and things like that. Now, how much of that is Hankerson, and how much is it that Deebo Samuel is Deebo Samuel? There could be some gray lines there, but I mean, that still is a solid duo to have on your resume. And overall, just generally speaking, I think wide receiver coach needs to be a priority, because there are still a lot of question marks on this unit, and that certainly needs to be addressed before the season starts, and it will be. But again, it's all about, learning your players' tendencies, what they do well, what they don't do well, Do they need a certain exercise program before training camp starts to help them put on weight? Do you, as a wide receivers coach, want them to work on speed drills? Do you want them to lose weight? Stuff like that. Just the little stuff that can help them be that much more prepared come August.
Yeah, and to Pimptown's point, spring ball's
right.
starting. Who's even coaching these receivers? Yeah. And just to be clear, you cannot. And actually, I think we haven't gotten in trouble for this, but several schools have for actually having their analysts, do a little bit too much, because you're not allowed to. You're very restricted in what you can do as an analyst. Which
is also weird to me, but that's an entirely another show.
Part of that is, that's the college athletics model. They limit the number of coaches. Again, to frankly to save money, but also level the playing field.
But then you can have like 75,000 analysts. It's like, okay,
which is why they're restricted in what they're allowed to do. They're essentially athletic department staff, right? That's so they can't. The NCAA is not really able to micromanage how many employees you have in your athletic department.
Right. I mean, it's just like
gray
area stuff.
It is a little farcical, but the reason they make that split between on-field versus like backroom or analysts is the on-field is very specific what they can do. And right now we do not have a wide receiver coach. So yeah, that's going to make developing those, to DJ your point, developing those off-season plans, developing those, analyzing the receiver position in spring, going to be difficult when you have a coach there. So,
well, to Pimp Down's point, he says, as far as continuity, this is strange. I agree, but in the first 2 years of Mario's tenure, there really hasn't been any continuity. So if anything, this is right on brand.
Well, continuity would have been Gaddis. So I think we're all glad there's no continuity here, but there's no one there is crazy.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, maybe they'll hire somebody soon, but again, I would have hired somebody, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. And I understand there's contracts and there's buyouts and things like that, but the whole slow moving, staff filling process is very frustrating as a fan. And as I'm sure it is to you, Vish, and the viewers watching.
Yeah. And I understand, even though earlier I was arguing that, the head coach should be making the hires across the staff, because there's only 10 on-field coaches and he's interacting directly with all of them, even if there's a coordinator in the way. It's not like a straight hierarchy. It is, everything rolls up to the head coach. But I do understand, despite that, all right, let's get the offensive coordinator in place first, and then we'll fill in the rest of the staff with him in place. That was several weeks ago at this point. Like, I expected once the offensive coordinator was in place, the dominoes to fall. Even defensively, I'm still a little perturbed that Nicholson was named the inside linebackers coach. I'm just taking the linebackers. So like, there's a little bit of it feels like, again, flailing around that we've kind of seen with his staff hires. Now, there's what we see, and then there's what's actually happening behind the scenes, which might be not at all the same thing. He might have it all lined up. To your point, let's play devil's advocate and say he already knows who he's got for all these positions. He knew Rod Wright was going. He's lined up the replacement. But those contractual things need to be worked out. There's a few items that need to happen. That's taken time. Now, sometimes it's pulling them from a difficult contract. Sometimes stuff might anyway, Gary's got some stuff to go. We'll go through in a second and talk about that. But sometimes it's some contracts end at the end of the month. Some of these things might be expiring naturally. What would you pay a buyout when it's going to end? There's all sorts of things that might be happening here where you can't officially announce things to a certain time. Again, they're not only do the buyouts happen that way in terms of contracts ending, they time box the overall length of the contract to when it started, which Randy Shannon found out in a horribly cruel way when they tried to take away his money, saying he technically wasn't the head coach here for 4 years because they fired him before the bowl game. So, and they tried to pay him a buyout for a 3-year contract instead of a 4-year. He did win that in court, but there's also so maybe there's some control behind this chaos, but what we're seeing out in public is chaos. There's logical reasons you can explain. Okay, this is why this is happening. This is why that's happening, but other schools seem to be able to just hire people, so I don't know why this is unique to Miami.
I definitely agree with you, Vish, and I totally can see where stuff could be happening behind the scenes, but as a fan, it would be just nice if everything had a nice little bow on it as we're beginning spring ball for the 2023 season. I mean, I understand that, Mario doesn't always announce his moves and he works in silence, but as a fan, it just drives you a little bit crazy. You want everything kind of all set in the comfort of things, knowing that they're there before spring ball starts. And if anything, Mario's kept us on our toes.
Yeah, and Gary dropped some news that I guess came via Flow, but I guess those are the interviews now. Unfortunately, Blue and his computer problems, because Blue actually talked to Kevin Beard last week. Would have been before Friday though, and nothing had happened on that.
Blue, we are really missing you today.
Yeah, including including with the whole, like, when the Jason Candle stuff was going, he had talked to Kevin Beard, and Kevin Beard's like, I don't know what all these rumors are. I haven't heard anything, because the whole thing was like, oh, Candle's coming, he's bringing Beard with him too.
Right.
There's
yep.
your OC and your wide receivers coach. So obviously I don't have actually I guess I have women's basketball sources, but the other ones I don't have. So unless you want some inside knowledge on that, I can't speak to that. I would say if it's those three, I'd probably prefer Hankerson.
Yeah, I would prefer Hankerson out of that group, but I definitely believe Flo. So hopefully there's
Flo's information is well sourced when he releases it. I just and Gary, I've actually met Gary. Gary and I've hung out a few times. So and we did not have spicy nuggets because they don't exist at Chick-fil-A. But
Gary, I had my Nebraska sweatshirt on today and I took it off.
I wasn't gonna even say anything because I knew he was gonna razz you, and then you went and did it. Oh my god!
But anyway,
there was a wardrobe change in pre-show, Gary.
There was.
Anyway, I trust this information. Just obviously, I don't have my own sources. So
out of that group,
we'll we'll obviously trust Flo's sources and Gary's relaying of Flo's information there.
I would go Hankerson in that group. Yeah,
I would as well. Out of that group. Although I wouldn't. I mean, Pop Cootie is a bit of a stretch for me.
We don't have Jazz here to debate.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I'd necessarily be happy with that hire. I think Beard or Hankerson. I think Hankerson out of those is probably the best one. Again, but then it's a different job in the NFL. Does he recruit well? I don't know.
Right. But
yeah, that is so. Hopefully, we'll have someone in place by the weekend, so that there's actually a coach during practice.
And I wouldn't be surprised if something was announced within the next week or so, because I could certainly see all the interviews being wrapped up, because Mario is not, he doesn't just sit around and do nothing. He's always doing something. It's just frustrating to not have everything wrapped in a nice little bow by now. And, I think we'll see something soon, but, spring practice starts Saturday. So I'm just excited that another season is almost here. Well, not almost here.
It's February, man.
Hey! Don't ruin my optimism and my excitement.
Hey, man, it is definitely basketball season right now. The Kings could win the ACC.
And baseball. And
baseball, but it is the men can win the ACC on Saturday. They win that game, they win the ACC. That is something.
They're playing at a really high level right now.
Well, until that last half.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to be optimistic. I was trying to offset Fish's pessimism, but
I'm not pessimistic. I'm optimistic about the basketball program, and I think they will win on Saturday. I think they'll win the ACC, and I think they'll win the ACC tournament because I think they're by far the best team in the ACC. It was just that was quite the meltdown. But sometimes you have to grow from those things.
Peaks and valleys.
Yeah. I guess maybe they need to be humbled. They certainly
they're going to be fun to watch in March, though. I'll say that much. They really are.
Yeah. So speaking of which, a couple of things as we kind of move towards wrapping this show up. Actually, a couple of network announcements. So I've started doing a midweek pre-recorded thing that we publish Wednesdays. It's 5-6 p.m. around then. So I'll talk about basketball there. We got the men, as I mentioned, but it is that clean. Like whoever wins that game on Saturday wins the ACC. So there's a bunch of tiebreakers and stuff, but that's what it comes down to. So that's a big deal. The Canes have won the ACC once 10 years ago. So that is a major accomplishment that's on the horizon if they can win that game. The women are in Greensboro right now playing the ACC women's tournament starting Thursday. And then the baseball team is in Gainesville this weekend playing UF. So there's a lot of just major stuff happening, which I'll talk about Wednesday. That'll be published. And then the F1 show is back. We had our preseason show last week. There was a race this weekend too in Bahrain. So we'll be previewing that. That show is live Wednesday at 9 p.m. Jazz better be off of his sick bed at that point.
Because I don't know anything about F1, so I totally.
Well, I mean, we can get our boy Gaben confused, and he actually worked for Mercedes F1 team. He's been a guest on our show before, but we do like this whole thing where we pick the race winners and all that, and we track them through the years. So I kind of need him to show up, and Moni Libro as well, who has been was covering an award show last week and missed the preseason.
Oh wow, I have watched, I have enjoyed. It's just like. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm trying to learn.
Yeah, no, it is very much an insular group there. There's like 4 people in the chat that with some of them overlap with that. Gary shows up occasionally, talk about Nuggets, that kind of stuff. But we got Fernie, Tapia, and all that.
Good. No, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you're having fun doing it, who cares?
Yep. And Jay, yes, I do live in DC. I am in Noma actually. So just off Capitol Street. But yeah, I've been here 12 years. So but you'll often find me in Miami, let me put it that way, including last weekend. And I will be just a little bit more on some coverage that we're going to be doing. So if I haven't run this past Jazz yet to see if he wants to hop on, but at least if the Canes win on Saturday, that game is at 6, so I'll end around 8. I'm going live, even if there's no one with me. We're going to celebrate that damn ACC championship if they win that thing. So we'll do that live on Saturday night if the Canes beat Pitt. So stay tuned for that. I might just be in a stream talking to myself, but
I'll hop on. I mean, it's going to be on TV, right?
God, it might be on ACC Network because Duke and Carolina play, but.
That's a big one.
But we will I'll definitely I'm gonna open the stream up and I'll see if I can drag Jazz in there. DJ, you're one. We're gonna celebrate that ACC championship if we win that, and then I'll also be, and I think Jazz will as well, but I definitely will be covering the team in the postseason. So, so as they go into not the ACC tournament because that is too much. That is too much. I do have an actual job, but NCAA tournament. I have taken those Thursdays and Fridays off, and I am going wherever the Canes go. So we'll be covering that as well. So stay tuned for that as this basketball team has a legitimate chance to do some stuff here. So stay tuned for a lot of coverage on the basketball team.
It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a busy Saturday in college basketball, and it's that time of year. Such an exciting time, and I can't wait to see what Miami can do.
Yep, and that game is 6 p.m. Saturday, hosting Pitt. Last week was the Canes' first home loss. If you recall the game at Pitt. The Canes were up 8 with 2 minutes left and blew the game, which is why they have to win this one now to win the ACC. But let's see. They are playing for it on Saturday. So we'll probably, I'll try to wedge once Jazz is back. See, I got freedom now. I can talk about basketball and Jazz can't stop me. But next week with him back, there might be limited basketball talk time, but I'm sure we'll also talk about the weekend series in Gainesville with UF and with spring practice opening. We're gonna have a busy show Monday. So again, tune into that fun show Wednesday. I'll have something on the network as well, pre-recorded on Wednesday as well, talking about some of the other Cane sports. We'll see you all next week. Thanks for watching and staying with us even without Blue and Jazz.
Yeah, thanks guys. Appreciate it. It's kind of lonely here without all our friends. But
yeah, it's like the Canes coaching room right now. There's all these empty chairs that's supposed to be filled.
At least I have you, Vish.
Yeah, well, let's see if we can show up Monday with Blue and Jazz next week and a full coaching staff. That's squad goals right now.
Squad goals, absolutely.
All right, thanks everyone for watching.
Okay.
We'll see you next week.
The 6 Rig Cane Show. Yeah. The 6 Rig Cane Show. Yeah. The 6 Rings Cane Show.